Principle number 4.
Commitment to agency. This is a good one. I think we all fight for agency. I think we all, to an extent, I kind of see us all as freedom fighters. We want to decide. How many times is what is your natural response when somebody tries to force you to do something?
Well, I can tell you my daughter was absolutely determined to get every stitch of clothing off.
Yes, she was.
And do it herself.
So when we talk about agency, we have to realize that, number one, man is not totally free unless he is taught the principles, truths, laws, rules, policies, procedures, etc. that can impact him. How can anybody really make a decision whether something is good or bad if they have not been taught?
Right. If you haven't been taught that stealing is wrong, what kind of agency do you have? Because you're going to end up in jail and you don't know why. Now, maybe that's extreme, but when I was in Israel growing up, I took some money down to the shuk and I put in a little coin into the gumball machine and kept turning that dial again and again and again. And pretty soon my pockets were full of gum. The entire gumball machine emptied into my pockets. And I went home so excited because I got all this gum for a single coin. And when I got there, Dad taught me a powerful lesson. Kristen, how many pieces of gum should you have had? Well, 1. Okay. Dad could have been excited that we got a whole bunch of gum and kept it and saved it and shared it with the rest of the 9 kids. Right? But we walked back to the shuk together and gave it back. And I learned amazing things because Dad taught them to me. He taught me the principles, the truths, the laws and the rules and the policies and procedures that allowed me to have not only agency in my future life, but in understanding the consequence of everything that happens so that I could have agency and unfettered choice and the ability to see both sides of the coin.
Right. And you have to, on the second part of it, you must understand the positive consequences and the negative consequences. You have to understand what can happen to you to make a choice.
Right. And so often people think that, consequences are bad, but they're not. Consequences are just consequences, good and bad. You do good things and there are good consequences. You serve and you are kind and you are loving. The consequence of doing that is a massive reward of love and kindness in return for the most part. But doing wrong and mean or stealing or whatever, the negative consequence, you could end up doing time, jail. It's important to understand both sides.
And why you would or not want to do something. I think that comes with stealing a car. What are your natural consequences?
Yeah, and how many parents, when the policeman shows up at the door, says, "Oh, my son's not here," and they shelter the child. Not my dad. My dad was hilarious. The police showed up at the door. "Yeah, we're looking for your sons. Which one? I've got them all." And allowing those natural consequences to fall or to be learned and experienced is much easier when you're 4 and 5 years old than having to learn it when you're an adult and fully responsible and the consequences are bigger.
Right. And I think the part with commitment to agency that is the most important part about agency is we must be given unfettered choice. What is unfettered choice? Unfettered choice is not somebody manipulating you to do something.
I think the important part of unfettered choice is that unless you know what'll happen, both good or bad, you really don't have the ability to make a good choice. When you know those two things because you've been taught all the potential consequences, then given the freedom to choose and have the consequence come regardless, is the power of learning, because we learn through experience. We're not perfect. We're never going to be perfect. So do we learn on the little things along the way as we grow? Or is it withheld from us our whole life until all of a sudden we're facing big critical decisions, but we're never given what we needed to learn? And so the commitment to have unfettered choice is so important.
Right. I think of a story for unfettered choice. I have a son. We were getting ready to go to church one day. He was upset. He was angry. He did not want to go to church, and he told me there is no way he's going to church. I could have handled that 2 different ways. One, I could have told him, well, okay, I think you know what the right thing to do is, and I think you're going to figure it out, but you decide and you choose if you're going to come to church. I'm sending him a message that he really doesn't have a choice, because he has to show up to church, because that's the right thing to do, and he should know that. And so I'm going to walk out this door, and I'm going to expect you sitting on the pew next to me, because that's what you should do. I never gave him unfettered choice if I handled it that way. The beauty is, this is one of my beautiful moments where I applied all of these principles, and I looked at him and I said, 1, I valued and affirmed his worth where he was at. He was upset and he was mad and he didn't want to go anywhere. And I told him, I can understand why you're upset, and I can understand why you're frustrated. And I can understand why you would not want to go to church. So I'm going to let you decide. You are free to choose whether you want to come to church or not. I will not be upset either way.
Wow. That's beautiful. So what did he do?
He showed up at church. But there, he showed up because he really felt no pressure. He was happy when he came to church. There was no fight. There was no battle at that point.
Yeah, you gave him the choice.
But I tried to apply these principles so far that we have talked to, and that is what I see, unfettered choice. No one's guilt loading you. No one's shaming you. They are really leaving you the choice to choose how you want to handle a situation.
Right. And guilt and shame is so destructive. Guilt and shame implies that somehow we were supposed to have been perfect and known it all and figured it all out. And it's condescending, and it's all of those things. It's crippling. You know, if you really believe in someone's innate worth, and you love and affirm their worth and want their growth and their agency, like we've talked about, you're going to expect that there's the joy in it, and you give them the freedom to be that. It's a beautiful and wonderful thing. And then that takes us to, principle number 5, commitment to trust my instincts and my intuitive responses. That takes us right to the very core of who we are, that spirit within us that is true and real and unbroken, and all of those amazing things that happens to maybe be a little, blocked by the filters and beliefs that we have. But that pure part of us has an innate capacity to sense, to feel, to detect, and to discern emotions from any source, from anyone. Emotion is really our first language and is so powerful. You think about that real part of us that communicates to us, where we find our peace, where we're on the beach, in our happy place, whatever it is, that's locking on to that pure part of us that still is there, even if we're depressed, right? If we go to those happy places within us, it's real and it's alive.
And we have mentioned this before with number 2, commitment to trust my instincts and my intuitive response is recognizing emotions are neither good nor bad. They're just natural alarms. They are keys to help us understand what is happening with us and what is happening with others.
Yeah, which is so awesome.
I think if everybody could take a moment and, like you had mentioned, find their happy place. Maybe their happy place is on the beach. I know somebody, their happy place is in a field where they're just doing cartwheels. That is where they find the most peace.
Yeah, even if you can't just physically go there, but to emotionally see yourself there, and that maybe it's on a beach somewhere in the middle of who knows where. Maybe it is a place on the other side of the world. Maybe it's in, up in the mountains up behind your house, and you don't have the time to drive there. Remember yourself there. Remember the peace that you felt there. Find that. The whole thing with emotions, so often, we become afraid of the emotions. And like I said, they're not good. They're not bad. Emotions are there to communicate to us. Going back to the analogy of our physical body when we have a fever, right? Fever spikes, we give it Tylenol, it takes care of it. It gives us a way to know something's wrong. Our emotions help us know when something's wrong. When we feel off with our emotions, what do I need to learn? When we go find that place of peace, we can learn and access all of the storage banks of our mind that are there and search for truth and trust the instincts within us, those quiet voices.